Hi guys, my name's Jack. I'm a college student studying chemical engineering, and last summer I did some research in something called microencapsulation. You might be thinking, what the heck is that? And that's what I thought originally too. But you probably already know what micro means. Micro is something that's really, really small. Like maybe, for instance, this marble. This marble's pretty small. But we're talking about something maybe 1,000 times smaller than this marble. Heck, maybe even 10,000 times smaller than this marble. We're talking about something so small that you can't even see it. So then what's the encapsulation part of microencapsulation? Encapsulation is putting something into something else. So if we wrap foil around this marble, then we could say it's encapsulated. You may have heard of someone getting cancer and having to go through something called chemotherapy. The chemotherapy heals their cancer, but it can still take a big toll on their body. It makes them feel sick and they might lose their hair. All said and done, there's a lot of bad side effects to chemotherapy. But with microencapsulation, we can alleviate a lot of those side effects. We can put an encapsulation around the super tiny cancer drugs and make them have less negative effects on the patient. So the person can still be healed of their cancer, but feel less bad during the process. The apparatus I've made here is pretty simple. I'll explain what it's used for later, but for now I'm going to explain to you how I made it. It's just 2 cereal boxes taped together to make a long ramp, and then I put saran wrap over the ramp so it'll be waterproof. I used a Cheez-Its box to support it. These materials are the ones I chose, but really you could use any materials that make us a nice ramp that we can roll things down. So what's the apparatus used for? The apparatus is going to be used to roll down marbles like I showed you before. The difference is, before I showed you how I would microencapsulate a marble by putting tinfoil around it, but for this experiment we're going to pretend that these marbles are already microencapsulations themselves. When you create microencapsulations, they're drenched in oil. But before the microencapsulations are useful, they have to have all of the oil drained off. So we need to make a device on top of our design apparatus that can totally separate the microencapsulations from the oil that they're drenched in. For this experiment, marbles will represent microencapsulations, and the oil will be represented by water. There are 2 parts to this design challenge. The first involves separating marbles and water so that water drains off the ramp and ends up in this bucket here, and marbles stay on top of the ramp, just like I showed. The second part of the challenge, which is a bit harder, is to separate marbles and water yet again, so that all the water again drains off, but marbles end up in a cup outside of the original design apparatus. I used my hand as an example, but you'll have to use the materials provided. If we can solve the problem of separating microencapsulations from the oil that they're drenched in, we can help cancer patients everywhere. Do you think you're up to this challenge?